Hi, guys. Welcome to Threads Podcast, Life Unfiltered. Thank you so much for joining us tonight or today or whenever you listen to it. I know I got to stop saying tonight.
It's all right. Did you say hi, guys, too?
Did I?
I don't know. I really wasn't listening.
Yeah, we're going to not work on. We're going to not use that either.
Wow.
What were you going to say?
I don't know. Threadies?
Yeah. You got to tell me before that. All right, let's just start again. No, that sounds dumb too, though. All right, we'll just go with it.
I just totally threw you off.
You did.
Sorry.
I say the same thing for both podcasts. Hi, guys. Welcome to blah, blah, blah. So anyways, this is an impromptu recording for Threads Podcast. We've actually are on hiatus. Well, it doesn't matter when you hear this. It doesn't even matter. I don't know why I talk about timely things. But anyways, so it's over the holiday time, and my sister Megan is in town on a surprise visit from good old San Diego, California.
Surprise visit?
Yeah.
Well, it wasn't a surprise for me.
Oh, okay.
It was a surprise for the kiddos.
The kids and anyone else. Did you tell her?
Well, my mom, our mom, but
yeah, well,
obviously, yeah. I mean, everyone knew except for the kids. So, but I was just here a couple weeks ago, so it was a last minute surprise visit.
Yeah.
Awesome.
So we thought the last time she was here, we were going to try to record it. Just didn't pan out for whatever reason. And she was probably too busy with her social life. But Megan is my sister. I don't know if I said that at the beginning. And she is podcasting too, and doing all kinds of stuff with, I don't know, extra like film and, speaking and those kind of things. And so I thought, well, let's have her on Threads. And I've been on her show that has yet to be released, but so that was kind of fun. It was shorter, but that's okay, because it's commercials, right? You gotta
because it's going to be on Roku. I'm going to put a little plug in for it.
Yeah, please do.
It's called I Am Enough TV on Roku. And by the time this interview comes out, it'll already be out. So you just have to search Easy Way TV Network and add that as a channel in your Roku.
Easy Way?
Easy Way. Easy. Just
like,
how it sounds. Easy. The letter E. Letter Z.
Okay.
Way.
Like easy rhymes?
Yeah. Easy Way TV. And then also Amazon Fire.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's
And you'll see
cool.
Jason on there.
How do you get an app on Roku?
I guess I was just in the right place at the right time because I was at an event and I was up for an award and just started talking to one of the producers and they gifted me the show because I'm a veteran and because I have my nonprofit. So it was really cool.
Yeah, that's pretty cool.
So it's been fun.
Yeah, hopefully it moves the needle for you a little bit.
Yes.
So Ben, why don't you tell us what Threads is about so Megan can know because I'm sure she's never listened to the podcast.
Have you listened to an episode?
I listened to like 5 minutes of one. I swear. And then because then I had stuff going on and then I didn't. But I have shared it on my Facebook before.
Yeah.
Awesome.
I know. It's a little weird.
I listened
I don't think it's weird.
all of the episode that you guys did together. So
yeah.
All the 22 minutes of it.
Yes, exactly.
Have you listened to my podcast, the Blonde Bombshell podcast?
Nope. Sure haven't.
I listened to like the first 5.
Well, that's right, because you're
So we're
providing
even.
feedback.
You guys are even 5 minutes on each.
5 episodes.
Oh, what? You listened to 5 episodes?
Well, they're like 30 minutes.
And that's when we had just started.
Okay.
So he was helping. He was giving feedback.
Nice.
And now we're over a year, so we kind of know.
Yeah, I haven't circled back. It's not for everybody. Our podcast isn't for everybody. 75% of our listeners are male. So only 25% are female. And yours is probably exactly the flip. And if not more.
All we have is women guests on.
It's probably 90-10.
For the Blonde Bombshell podcast, but for I Am Enough TV, I do men and women.
Okay.
Yeah.
Very cool. Well, Threads Podcast is a show all about life unfiltered. Jason and I take time each time we sit down to give an update on how things are going in our lives. So often when you look at social media, it's like the highlight reel and all the good stuff, especially around the holidays, people posting all the gifts they have. You don't see a whole lot of posts about, this is what my life really is.
Mm-hmm.
So what ends up happening is we compare our lowest moments to other people's highlight reels, and it's discouraging. So we wanted to create a space in the midst of this, the interwebs, if you if you will, where we can be open and honest with each other. And the goal in doing that is that we create space for other people to have those same conversations as well. So that's kind of what Threads is about. And I think there's a lot of connecting points between what we do here and what you're doing with your efforts. Mm-hmm. So it must run in the family or something.
We both look at each other like we both take a deep breath. I think I'm just going to be honest. My brother's never been this open feeling wise. And when I heard about what you guys do on Threads, I was so impressed because he talked about it on my show.
Yeah.
And then, behind the scenes too. And I just think it's so awesome because and nothing against men, but like a lot of men don't talk about their feelings and aren't very real and raw about what's going on in life and their emotions. So I'm like super excited and very honored to be on the show because this is my life. I love the dialogue of being, I always say authentic and unapologetically owning who you are and just being out there and you either like it or you don't.
Yeah. So growing up and even into adulthood, you haven't seen this side of your brother? Is that what you're saying?
Yeah. I mean, everyone knows it comes from a crazy background in the family, and we've ebbed and flowed in relationships through, between me and Megan and me and my sister Nicole and my parents. And so, yeah, none of that really kind of came out. And I had a pretty rocky 20 to 30 for 10 years. And then I met Megan. And then I started
Megan.
Yeah, sorry.
Yeah, because there's two Megans.
Well, people, I'm sure people that regular listeners probably get that, but yeah. Then I met my wife Megan, and then it was rocky for a few years too. Not rocky, but just kind of it was tough. And then started going to therapy, and then like regularly hardcore therapy, and that's kind of what has led me to just to be more open. And then being friends with Ben, I mean, about me, I'm edgy. Sometimes I'm hard to get along, but Ben is like soft spoken, and he does have a little snark meter. Don't get me wrong. It happened tonight before he walked in.
Yes, Dad.
But he just is very thoughtful, and it's kind of brought a lot of more deep thinking, as much as I can call it deep thinking, out of me a little bit. So
yeah, and in the same breath, I feel like, I don't know, I might be too harsh on myself, but in my therapy sessions, we've been talking about my childhood, and a label that was often given to me was sensitive. And I say that with air quotes just because I don't like that word. So I feel like being friends with Jason has kind of brought the opposite of that into my life and helped me discover that I'm not just this softy, that I can have some snark and I can, enter the ring a little bit with Jason here and there. And in a weird way, it's shown me that I'm not just this softy. I've also got some grit. And Jason's helped me see that.
So basically what he's saying is I brought out him being an asshole.
Yeah, sure. We'll go with that.
But no, that's good.
And my wife has acknowledged that my use of the F word has increased dramatically due to our friendship.
Yeah,
but that's okay.
We don't say it on any of the podcasts, but if you hear me outside of it, it flies, and it is what it is. I shouldn't say it, but
and I guess I've just come to a point in my life where I've realized I don't have to just always be the softy, deep thinking guy. I can also kick back and have some fun.
Yeah.
And Jason's really helped me experience that side of things. So we really do balance each other out in a weird, crazy way. So
fast forward to now, you've been in the Air Force and you've worked at a hospital, and I think I could be wrong, but you're not working at a hospital now.
I want you to say all my titles.
It's too many.
Oh boy!
Just go to her Facebook, 'cause she's got them all written down there. You got to scroll down like 3 pages. So you've done all that stuff, and now you've landed on this "I'm Enough" movement. So tell me about that. Like, what is that about, and what is your goal for it, and all that stuff?
Yeah. Well, So the movement started, I was in a very narcissistic, abusive marriage. Jason was at my wedding, which was a shit show.
Oh.
It was an amazing wedding. It was in Napa, and it meant shit show just because we got so drunk.
Well, after the wedding, it got crazy.
The celebration.
Yeah. So I've been a mental health therapist for almost 15 years and did not know I was in this narcissistic, abusive marriage. He had an affair for 14 months out of our 2.5-year marriage, kicked me out of the house twice, pulled the divorce papers 4 times. I was completely traumatized, literally just had no idea what was going on in my life. And Jason and Megan saw it, and I was this complete emotional basket case. And I didn't even realize how moody and angry I was when I'd come home and visit, and even my friends in California. And so after the divorce was final, I still was committed to him for 2 years. And then that's kind of when I started realizing that I never felt like I was enough, which stemmed from different areas in my childhood. So when I finally walked away from him in 2018, I started writing my book, which I wasn't planning on writing. I'm not a writer, but it was written during my trauma work with my therapist in that 5 months. And it's called You Are Enough. And I really started doing all my work and figuring out what that meant for me, because every single one of us have had feelings and thoughts of not being enough, right? Whether it be in our health, relationships, career. And it was the first time I was able to actually say that and be honest about it. And so when the book came out, I became a best-selling author, and it just really kind of took on this life of its own because, and I'm sure you guys have noticed this too with your podcast, the more real and honest and authentic you are to people, either in person or on a podcast or on a stage, the right people come into your life, and the toxic people and the toxic things leave.
Yeah.
And that's what I started noticing. And so these people with these incredible stories about either domestic violence or health issues, both men and women, were just coming to me and talking to me. So then I got bored. The book came out and I was like, okay, what else can I do? Because I was working, I have a private mental health practice.
Okay.
But I don't work that full time. So I teach a lot with my clients about visual coping skills and how sometimes we have to read something to distract our mind from something that's negative.
Sure.
And so when I was going through my trauma work, I had like affirmations on sticky notes and like different words and all of that stuff, like all over my house, in my car, everything. So I came up with this idea and created these visual coping cards that say I am enough on the front. And then on the back, it has the word because with a couple lines, and you write why you believe you're enough. And I just started handing these out to people. I didn't know that this is where it was going to lead to. So I launched that in February, so almost a year ago. And the cards are absolutely free. I send them all over the world. I've sent over 6,000 cards now. I just got my 41st state today, West Virginia.
Sweet.
And 16 countries.
Wow.
So that means that people organically have heard about the movement either from my social, it's a one-woman show. I do everything myself. So social media or my show or podcasts, TV shows. And I've gone to my website and ordered the cards. So that's what that means.
Okay.
Yeah. And so it's just a way to give back and to really empower people to believe that they're enough. Because even though I'm kind of known as the I am enough girl, I struggle all the time with that thought. Just because I have this movement that is now a nonprofit, it doesn't mean that I don't struggle. And there's a lot of times where I come home and I'm like to my roommate, I'm like, oh my gosh, like I just can't do this or blah, blah, whatever. And then she's just like, oh my gosh, read your book or look at the card.
Eat your words.
Yeah. So it's just a way to give back. And then I took it a step further in November. I just got the 501c3 status for the nonprofit. I just want to be able to give back, be able to do events all over the country, and then be able to give money back to domestic violence shelters, veteran communities, and that kind of stuff. So
very cool.
That's it. Sorry, that was a very long story to answer your question.
It's all right.
Well, here's a awkward question. Why did you keep your narcissistic husband's last name?
I love that you asked this because no one knows that, but you do because you're my brother. But you know, when I do all these podcasts and stuff, everyone I don't know if they think it's just my maiden name, but I love that you asked that question. I kept it because I had already started branding myself before our divorce was final. And my license, my therapy license and everything is in Fenyoe. And for me to have to start all over, it was just something that was going to take way too long. I had already established I don't want to say fan base, but, followers
people
and stuff.
People knew you by that name. Yeah.
And so it's crazy because I don't think about it.
Right.
Because for me, when I say Fenyoe, it doesn't even cross my mind anymore, and it's super empowering to me.
Yeah,
because he hates it.
Well, yeah, I was just going to ask that. So I'm sure his reaction is just, I can't imagine.
I get an email from him every couple weeks, or probably every 6 weeks to 8 weeks.
Really?
I have not talked to him. I have not had any contact with him since February 15th, 2018.
Okay.
He will still send me very rude, threatening emails, very mean, sometimes about my dogs that I haven't seen in 2 years, sometimes about threatening to take my social work license, threatening me to all of these different things to sue me.
Because that's possible.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. To sue me and all of that stuff. But,
wow.
And it just gives me more, not that I want to hurt him,
No.
I don't want to hurt him, but sorry, dude, like that's what happens.
Yeah.
When you do what you did.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's why I kept it. Everything was just already in motion.
So there's kind of
and to be honest,
of a stick it to the man feel.
I like Fenyoe better than Thierry.
Why?
I don't know. It's just a thing. I think it sounds better for me than Megan or than Thierry. And then there's no confusion with your wife and me.
There can only be one Megan Thierry.
There's still confusion.
Yeah, funny story about that. At one point, I go to Massage Envy because I always have back problems. And so I get regular massages. Okay, I'm not bougie. It doesn't feel well. I mean, it feels good afterwards, but they're not like pampered massages. They're like deep tissue pain. But apparently my sister Megan went there at one point too. And I've been going there for a year, and all of a sudden they started confirming my massages with her.
Like within the last 3 months,
Yeah.
I've had 2 calls. And when I lived here before I moved to San Diego, Megan and I went to the same doctor.
Oh, gosh.
And so I would get a call, or she would get a call confirming an appointment because we were both Megan Thierry's at the time. And then, so I've gotten 3 calls for Jason Massage Envy. And I'm like, hey, Jay, I just wanted to send you a message, your massage, confirming your massage.
Well, the funny part is they switch systems, and somehow with migrating everything, I'm like, it's been a year. Like, why are you doing this now? So, yeah. And then my wife, Megan, the whole the doctor thing. And
yeah, wow.
And the frustrating part is you tell these people that this isn't correct, and it's like, does anyone do their job and not fix it? Because it happened multiple times with the doctor and multiple times with Massage Envy. So,
and it happened once too. I used to be a CPS worker here.
Oh, wow.
And remember that? I can't remember what the exact story was, but Megan was working in the NICU, and I was a CPS worker coming to go see one of the children that we had removed, and my name was on the chart or something like that. And one of the doctors was like, Megan, why are you writing on this chart about CPS or it was CPS worker or something? Anyway, although our names are spelled different, it was just, It's been a little crazy. So yes, long story. I just kind of like the name Fenyoe.
I mean, yeah, in a selfish way, you would think it'd be better, but it's not. Can you just call Massage Envy and give them your Fenyoe name?
I haven't used Massage Envy in 5 years.
See, that's the funny part. It's like they migrated. So
yeah, they did that. So, and I have a 616 number too.
That's true.
Yeah,
maybe you should change that.
I can never get rid of my Grand Rapids number.
It's your roots.
I've had it since I first had a cell phone.
Wow,
that number.
That's a long time.
Mm-hmm.
That's a long time.
So let's go back to childhood a little bit.
Great.
I'm just going to address the elephant in the room that it's not really an elephant, but it's part of both of your story, and that would be the abuse that was experienced. Obviously, Jason has been working through that through therapy, and more so within the last 10 years.
Last 2 or 3 years.
2 or 3 years. Okay.
So it's pretty fresh.
Yeah. What has that process been like for you? Was there a similar amount of time that kind of went on before you started acknowledging some of what happened in childhood?
I don't even remember really when I started acknowledging it. my journey was a little different because I became a CPS worker.
Yeah.
When I was 23 out of my bachelor's. And then I went and got my master's. So in social work and therapy.
Mm-hmm.
And so in my 20s, I saw a lot, because we both struggle with anger, and I acknowledge that. And that was my part in the marriage was some of the anger.
Sure.
But in my 20s is when I started doing with the guy who I got in the fight with at your wedding.
Wait.
Remember I was dating that guy?
Hold on. JR?
GR. So honestly, so funny. We were just talking about that. That is honestly when I started going into therapy because he had broken up with me because
At a wedding?
at Jason and Megan's wedding.
Wow. Did he sign the guest book picture?
Yes, he's right. Yes, his pictures are his
That's funny.
yeah, it's right behind you.
Oh,
Yep.
man.
And so that's when I really started going into therapy and I started doing my own work. Part of it was I didn't realize that my trust issues, for some reason, I thought they were because of him, because of you, Jason, but they really stemmed from my dad.
Interesting.
And I didn't realize that because what my therapist pointed out to me was she would always ask, like, where was your dad in all of this? And I would say, it would usually be if they would get in a fight and dad would leave and then mom would kind of flip out and, or when he was at work. And so part of my work was I had to ask my dad. And so I took him to Russ's. I'll never forget it. I was terrified. And I said, flat out, I said, where were you?
Yeah.
He was like, what do you mean? I said, where were you when all of this stuff was going on? What do you think his answer was?
I didn't know what was going on.
I didn't know what was going on.
Do you believe that?
My dad and I have always been super close. We're super close now, but what he said was I never saw physical bruises, which he did because we had physical bruises.
Right.
And I don't know as a child, like if my mom would turn the stories around when he'd come home. Yeah. I remember the incidents that happened, the physical incidents that happened when my dad wasn't around. I don't remember of any of them happening when he was there, but her anger and her instability and the sheer terror that she would cause, he saw that.
Hold on a second.
So the instability and sheer terror. So I think he just gave a backdoor answer in a way, and that's all I was going to push him. But that's when I told him, I was like, hey, I always thought my trust issues came from other reasons, but they really came from you.
Yeah.
But like I said, we have a close relationship. I don't agree with everything he does, and sometimes Jason, I will be like, why does he do it that way or this? But
I mean, honestly, this is going to be kind of, this is unfiltered, but I wish they would have got divorced. Long time ago.
So our grandma, who we adored.
Right. The only stable person in our life.
Yeah. And she, honestly, I look to her as my mentor, my mother in some aspects. And Jason had a very close relationship with her too. I remember asking grandma that, and grandma said, I wonder that all the time.
Yeah.
Because I would say it. And I remember asking dad that when I was a teenager too.
Yeah.
I asked dad, I was like, why do you stay with her? And the love for her is so, I don't know how he does it.
Yeah.
How he's done it for so long. And so I question that. I mean, because that is some unconditional love there.
Right?
I mean,
Man.
that is some major unconditional love.
Yeah.
So, but going back to your original question. So my stuff started in my 20s, but there was a couple years where I didn't talk to her because she flipped out on me in public. And that's when I really had to start learning boundary setting.
Sure.
So some of the stuff would still come up, but I think my major work was in my 20s.
Okay.
That was the big stuff for me. The forgiveness stuff and the talks that I had with her started happening about the last 10 years, with my last talk with her being 2 months before she went into the nursing home.
Wow. Yeah.
So, yeah. So my journey is a lot different than Jason and Nicole's.
Sure.
So I don't know if it's because went into therapy. I don't know, but I'm my own as a therapist, but I'm very honest about that with my patients. Like they know I'm not this perfect therapist that just sits here and acts like I have it all together. So,
well, what's interesting, you say that in your 20s, because I feel you haven't, like, just recently you've kind of emerged from the dust, which I know you kind of have to. I feel like the stuff with Tom and the abuse, growing up, I don't think you can separate that. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? Like, yeah, this was a bad time in your life, but if you didn't have that shitty upbringing, you would have handled that a lot better. You probably would have never got married to him in the first place. You know what I mean? Because you would have saw all the red flags going off. But so I feel, because and just in our relationship, I feel like it's just recently that I can tell that you've done work.
Oh.
So, I mean, I can see it. I can just see it. Like,
and I appreciate that. And maybe it's because I was doing the trauma work related to Tom, but maybe in fact I was actually also doing the childhood stuff, because we didn't really talk about the childhood stuff.
Yeah.
But I did this book in my 20s called The Inner Child Workbook. It's amazing. And so maybe I think I was letting go of a lot of that stuff.
Absolutely.
Because my life literally fell apart a year and a half ago. I was a mess. And Jason can tell you, for those 6 years, I was a total bitch. I had no clue. I had no clue. I just acted like I had it together. I had no clue that I was so snippy and so angry and agitated.
Yeah.
No clue whatsoever.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so you probably worked on like maybe the forgiveness part for mom and dad or whatever, which you and I talked on the phone recently, and I had said, I forgave mom, but like it's still like a huge part of who I am.
Absolutely.
And I can't blame her, but it's still part of when I get after Ben or whatever. And
me too. My poor roommate lives with it.
Yeah.
She gets it. I'm not perfect. I will flip out, not all the time, usually when there's alcohol involved.
Yeah.
And I'm like, oh my gosh, like it just comes out of nowhere.
Sure.
And then I apologize. And that's the part that I know is still mom. That's the part that I know, unfortunately, is probably going to always be there. And it sucks.
That sucks.
It does suck.
One of the things that I'm working on and starting soon, and I started it and then quit because I hated it, but is the EMDR.
Oh, yeah. We talked about that on my show.
Did you see results, or did you quit before you could?
So one of the things with EMDR is you kind of got to like let go. Mm-hmm. Like, and as you know, I have a control problem.
Really?
Yeah. So
he's the biggest control freak I've ever met. I love you, but...
I know. We agreed that I would be here at 7, and I'm heading over. I didn't feel like I needed to tell him that I was on my way, but I don't know if he was getting antsy or what. But
he was totally getting antsy.
He was getting antsy.
The controlling side of Jason's like, where's Ben?
No, it's not controlling. It's like, I don't know. Any other time he tells me he's coming. So he did it tonight, and I tried to wait as long as I could to say anything, and then it was like 6:52, and I'm like,
and I'm in the car driving here.
All right,
maybe that's not control, but
no, it's partially control. But anyways, with that EMDR, you have to like completely let go. So we start it, and for those you don't know, they give you like devices. You can do an eye thing where it's kind of like rapid eye movement when you're following the finger, or they give you these things that vibrate back and forth. So it's just try to interrupt your brain waves. Mm-hmm. So we start at a story as back as far as I can remember, and she's like, okay.
Which story was it?
So one of them was, I remember in the kitchen getting kicked by mom, like into the wall and then sliding down.
Jeez.
And
we could go on. We could.
And I don't remember why I did, what happened, but I felt like I have to perform. So she asked me, every 90 seconds it is. So what do you see now? I'm like, I just felt pressure to be like, because I didn't see, like I saw the original but I didn't see any more at that point. And so I just got frustrated with it after like the third visit. And I was just like, I can't do this anymore. Like, I feel like I feel bad that I'm wasting your time. I'm wasting my money, all this other stuff. Like, I don't want to do it anymore. But circling back, I'm going to try it again. Because I'm still bumping up into these issues.
Yeah.
And that's the thing. Well, first of all, I have to ask you, did you ever go back to the memory of you when you tied the rope around my neck and I had the big rope burn?
I do not remember that.
We have that picture still. Anyway, and that was just for fun because he was little. But I think the
So it
biggest...
wasn't like a...
I was kind of paranoid that that's something
No,
I
he
did.
didn't do it on the purpose. It was like, I think he was like 5 and I was like,
yeah.
we're 3 years apart.
Yeah.
So I was little.
Sure.
And he just put this rope around my neck and I have this big rope burn. We were playing. But anyway, that's the one thing I think is super important for people that are in therapy is that we have to give ourselves grace and be kind to ourselves because one technique doesn't work for everyone.
True.
Yes.
Right? So I love that
Yes.
you're going to give it another chance, but also knowing that you're also human. And just like I said, even though I'm a therapist, and I screw up all the time. I get angry. I get angry and cry and this and that. But as long as we can acknowledge it, I feel, and make it right if we do screw up, if we hurt someone, it doesn't give it okay to do it all the time, but we're still human.
Yeah.
And unfortunately for us, some of that stuff is never going to go away.
Yeah, and I wish it would, though.
I know.
man.
Oh, believe me, I wish it would
Because, like,
too.
everything would be so much better. I mean, I am who I am because of what happened, so I don't know. I always do think back, like, what would have been like if everything was, I mean, I say normal. I
Our
mean,
life would have
but
been
what
so
is
boring.
normal, though?
There is no normal.
there isn't. I
Normal
mean,
is a setting on a wash machine. That's about all it is.
It is.
yeah, I mean, even my wife, Megan, I say she had, and she did, she had a great life, but there's still things that come up with her that are issues that need to be worked on, even though she didn't get abused or anything like that.
Yeah.
So,
I mean, in my story, we had our shit for sure. But I come from a sweep it under the rug family. Like, nobody talks about anything.
well, that's kind of what ours was too. I mean,
Right. But there was obviously expression of anger or emotion.
true.
Yeah, but when we walked outside, no, Judy would literally, if my sister's hair was not perfect on Sundays, she would like hit us over the top of the head with a hairbrush, like it was our fault.
Jeez.
And we looked like Sunday mornings going to church was horrific
Ugh.
because
Yeah.
if we did not look perfect,
Yeah.
and I carried with that with me for so
I can
many
imagine.
years. I felt like I couldn't go out without having makeup on or looking perfect. And it honestly wasn't until probably like 10 years ago.
Wow.
And moving to California really helped because now it's like I hardly wash my hair and any of that. Like,
Because she's a hippie now.
but yeah, that's something that gets created, unfortunately.
It does.
So
Yeah.
what were you saying about sweeping under the rug?
Well, things just never got dealt with. And so instead of, I mean, one thing that I hashed out in my most recent therapy session is I didn't really have a clear understanding of the spectrum of emotions until I was in college. And one of my friends happened to have one of those, you probably
Feeling
seen it.
charts?
Yes,
Yes.
exactly.
I have those all over.
Nerds.
I never stopped to consider that there were all of these different emotions. I feel like in our family, we were only allowed to feel happy, sad for a time, not angry, because anger just doesn't create good things. And then anything else that we felt, it was like this unspoken expectation that you just sweep it under the rug and pretend it's not there and just put on a plastic, happy, smiley face. And
How did that work out in your relationships? I'm interested to know, like in your marriage, like is that when you noticed that you had to like start
Oh gosh,
expressing
yes.
emotions?
Oh yes. The first 10 years, no, maybe not 10, but first 5 years of our marriage were very difficult for that reason, because I wasn't used to acknowledging how I was genuinely feeling. And I wasn't used to expressing emotions or feeling comfortable with somebody to express that raw feeling. And so I would just brush things off. It's fine. I'm fine. And just.
What I say the other day, we were sitting at Christmas and I said, okay, fine. great and good are not feeling words.
Yeah, it's true.
But that's true. That's what you said because you didn't know any other word.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah.
And, I want to be careful because my mom listens to the podcast. And,
Hi, Mom.
Yeah. But
Awkward.
It is a little bit. And we've gotten better as a family in adulthood. We've all faced things that forced us to experience and express emotion. And I'm so grateful for that, but that all happened in adulthood. I feel like the growing up years were so chaotic and crazy. And anytime that something stressful happened, it's like you're allowed to feel it for a moment, but then you just move on with life and pretend it never happened. So
That's tough. That's tough. And a little background on Ben, his wife is a mental health therapist.
She is.
Did I know this? I think maybe you told me.
Yeah. And
Where does she work?
She currently...
Oh, wait, maybe we shouldn't say that.
Yeah, well, she did have a job. I don't know if she wants me to say where. I can tell you after.
Okay.
But it's a fruit.
It's a fruit?
It's a fruit.
The first
It was
word.
a short-lived.
It was very short-lived, and that's part of our story. We adopted our daughter and our son from foster care.
Oh,
And-
that's awesome.
Yeah.
Did you work with Kent County DHS?
Yes, it's all privatized now.
Oh, now it is. Yeah, you're right.
So all the different nonprofits handle all of that.
Yes.
So we had a really great experience with
Good.
both of them that we worked with. But our daughter has a history, and over Thanksgiving, she had a mental health breakdown of epic proportions, and additional resources and supports had to be called in, and we're still recovering. But all that to say, my wife had landed a sweet job and, great pay, great benefits, everything she had dreamed of. Well, she had to walk away from that so that she could be home for our daughter and to attend to her needs. So that was hard. But now she actually got a job working in the children's emergency room as a social worker.
That was my job I always wanted to do when I started out.
Yeah.
That is awesome.
So she's just going to be doing that every other weekend, and
Very
it's
cool.
overnight, so she can be present for our daughter. We talked about, is it possible for her to continue to work? And we just decided it's really not. My daughter, for better or for worse, has really latched on to my wife as mom and provider and caretaker and everything else. We're getting there in our father-daughter relationship, but I'm not able to be the source of stability that she needs. And she's found that in my wife. So my wife kind of had to press pause on her professional career. And, now her main focus is our daughter. So,
Wow.
But it's not kind of interesting because she's like a spitfire like me.
oh yeah, they get along great.
I can imagine
Your
their-
daughter?
No.
Oh,
Well,
your
she
wife.
is too.
Yeah.
My
your
wife.
Yeah.
Wife and daughter.
Wife. Yeah.
I'm kind of surrounded by spitfires.
Yeah, you and Stefan are in the corner doing this. But yeah, it's just interesting. Like I would bet the first 5 years of your marriage were tough because
Oh, yeah.
she's a spitfire and she comes from brokenness too.
Yep.
Some pretty rough brokenness and
I came from brokenness too, but it was just never addressed as brokenness. It was
what do you mean?
brokenness.
Because, go ahead.
No.
I want to answer for you.
I mean, we clearly had our issues, but we just glossed over everything.
Well, what are those issues?
I mean, there's a lot of different things.
You don't have to say anything, but this is news to me because I would not call your life brokenness.
There
Just
were,
for what I know of yours.
I mean, there were elements of that. Yes.
His mom is listening.
Well, no, it's actually a revelation because him saying the brokenness kind of is like,
I think every family has a certain level and degree of brokenness.
yeah,
There's
but
not like ongoing physical abuse in my story, but there's moments of, that's not right.
And so when you were saying brokenness, what I took from that was the lack of emotions that were expressed in your family.
Yes.
So
that's
you
a
were
major part of it.
That's a huge brokenness because you were taught don't show emotion, act like everything's okay.
Yep.
Whereas Jason and I were taught we're
Yeah.
crazy.
No, and I wasn't trying to throw you under the bus, Ben, but I was just trying to. I mean, I understand that can be. It's a spectrum, right?
Yeah.
It is.
Just like everything.
With my brothers growing up, there was definitely brokenness there. My older brother and I just constantly were at each other, and it got physical a few times, and that's normal. But again, everything was just kind of, it's not an issue. Let's just move on, look past it.
Jason scared the shit out of me growing up.
Yeah, I was pretty violent.
But we also had our fun times because we were in school together and we ran track together.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think once we got more in high school together, there wasn't that like scariness. But like I remember there were a couple times where, and unfortunately, he's the oldest, so he got a lot of my mom's the physical part, and so that's what he learned.
Yep.
And I was in the middle, and so I would protect my sister from the physical part. So I would get it if Nicole was getting it. I would stand in front of that. But yeah, Jason, you had it the worst.
Well, it's a miracle I'm not in prison.
Honestly.
I mean, I had a lot of anger. I mean, I had my issues in my 20s and 30s. But yeah, it is kind of a miracle that I turned out as good as I did. I mean, not patting myself on the back or anything.
You need to.
But it's just amazing.
Yeah.
And but yeah, as I took the physical, you guys took the emotional a lot more, though.
Oh my gosh, yes, the craziness of.
Well, him and I'm going to circle back. I know we're kind of
we're all over the place.
We're bebopping all over. But like when you were talking about the Sundays, like I brought that up to Ben. We've talked about it on our podcast. Now you experience it every day. Like I didn't experience it every day. My issues was Christmas, Easter, all the holidays where you got to go to church and look nice. And
how are those now? Because I know that's still part of your story and what your family does now.
I mean, you'd have to ask Megan. I feel it's a lot better. Wife Megan. Definitely have to clarify with a Megan on the podcast.
Yeah, because I'm like, I haven't been home for a holiday in 7 years. And so,
no, wife Megan. I think it's gotten better, but it still causes a little bit of angst.
I can imagine.
Even to the simple part of Sully hates jeans, hates anything constricting, and so he wears athletic pants all the time. Like, I don't let him wear athletic pants to church.
Really?
Mm-mm. And
I let Stefan.
Yeah, well, it's okay. Even if he did, it's okay. No one cares. But it's still that little in the back of my head, like he at least has to wear some sort
church
of
clothes.
Not even church clothes. Like he can wear a graphic tee, but he cannot wear sweatpants. Cannot wear sweatpants to church. And that's the Sunday thing. Like if that's all I do, I'm good.
You're doing pretty well.
Yep.
No kidding. What about for you?
Oh gosh. It's been hard. And I think that's where I first started with where I felt like I wasn't enough. Because I grew up and I have a learning disability. So I'm 8th grade reading level and an 8th grade math level. And I was told never to go to college because I was never going to graduate. The one props I do have to give mom and dad is that they were always very understanding. I never got in trouble for my grades, and I still struggle with my learning disability. But I remember just even math, like just her getting mad, like, because I couldn't make $1 out of 4 quarters and always us having to look perfect. And, even the last couple months, I was in a really bad car accident and I haven't been able to work out and I've gained some weight. And I remember I was flying here and just that thought quick in my head, I wonder if my mom was going to say something. Because every single time I would come home, even when I lived here, she would always make the thing about my face. Oh, your face looks thinner, or your face looks, fuller, which means you gained weight.
I do actually remember that even in the last 5 to 7 years. I remember that was always, I know that always set you off. Like when we would see you, I'd be like, oh boy, this is not going to be good.
I've never really been I'm the heaviest that I've been. But I've always worked out. Working out was always important to me. I'm a picky eater, and I allow myself to eat what I want. Although right now I can't. I just turned 40, and my metabolism. Let me tell you guys,
my metabolism stopped at 21.
But it's funny because I've gained weight. I feel guilty. I don't like it. And on the plane here, I was like, and my mom can't talk.
Yeah.
She's not allowed to, like, she can't talk anymore. So it's crazy that I still think about that.
Yeah, man.
But to the point where I don't have to wear makeup all the time and if I have greasy hair, I'm fine with that. But it's still, I'm reciting the I'm enough thing, like what that means to me more often over the last 2 months, honestly, because I just feel unhealthy because I'm not working out.
Yeah, because you're not working out.
Yeah. But that negative self-talk has been really rampant the last couple months, not gonna lie. So, and it just goes with what's going on in life. And,
for sure.
And the importance of having those coping skills.
Yeah. So obviously a big part of childhood was the faith aspect. What does that look like now for you? I know for Jason, his family has continued to go to church and be involved in their faith in that way. Something we talk about on Threads sporadically is that piece of faith.
I love this question.
Yeah.
And it's not been consistent with me. I mean, in the last couple of years it has, but there was a long hiatus of not going, and then like a dumbass, I go to the church my parents go to. Like, that's what I settle on. Like, what an idiot.
I could not believe that.
I know.
And you guys went for a number of years.
Time.
Yeah.
Like the last decade.
Sure.
I was shocked because that would be something I would do, not Jason.
I know. I don't know why. I don't know how I got drawn into there. I don't know if I was
it's what you knew.
Not that church, though, because we never went to that church as a
Oh.
family. The church that we went to is no longer there.
Interesting. That's right.
Yeah,
okay.
I'm trying to remember if it was the baptism thing for Avery, maybe. Like,
Oh, yeah, because you did go there.
I had to get a kid baptized, and we weren't going to a church at the time, so
That's
maybe
right.
that's how I got pulled in there. But
okay.
I do rack my brain and think, what was I thinking?
I still can't believe it.
Yeah.
Because then when they left, when you guys started going to the other church, that was I just remember mom and dad were like, yeah, they go to another church.
Oh, really?
Oh, yeah. They weren't mad about it, but I think because mom was still loose. I mean, mom,
Oh, yeah.
because that was a couple years ago. I just remember mom saying, well, they don't go to our church anymore.
Well, and honestly, I mean, long story short, we should have left a long time ago, but I was wrapped up into a lot of the things in church. I was on the production team. I did plays, so I had commitments. But anyways, yeah. So what were we talking about? Oh, faith.
I love this question because God has always been in my life. But I think the 6 years that I call him Mr. N, Mr. Narcissist, was in my life, God was not in my life. He's always been in the back of my head, if that makes sense. I remember going to church up in Northern California, but I ignored every sign that God gave me. I was so, and I'm not going to get emotional because I can't believe I'm going to get emotional about this, but I think maybe it's because it's the first time I've actually ever talked about it.
Said it out loud.
A lot of people, I've said it to like friends and stuff, but people on podcasts, like the shows, they don't ask about this. So it's been a while, but I was so angry, and I would go to church and, just sporadically, and then Mr. N would never go with me. And so God was not in our marriage at all. And I'll never forget when he kicked me out the first time. I had to move to LA, and I remember sitting on the floor in my apartment, and I was screaming to the point where my neighbors came over because they thought I was having a domestic, but I was literally screaming at God. I was having a fight, with a verbal fight that people could hear, with God saying, why are you doing this? Like, what, and then, of course, I didn't get an answer because I wasn't allowing myself to listen to what he was saying.
Sure.
And then 8 weeks later, my ex comes back and I moved back up there. And it wasn't until I moved to San Diego, I got rebaptized at my church up north. But again, Tom was still in my life, but I still got rebaptized. And then,
was he there for that?
No, because we were already divorced.
Sure.
But you said, like, since you were divorced, he was still kind of in and out for a couple years, right?
Oh, no. We were, like, together for 2 years. I did not know he had another girlfriend that was living with him for 2 years. But my big turnaround with my faith was February 13th of 2018.
Oh, wow. So pretty recent.
I prayed and I said, okay, Lord, I was picking up my ex from the airport because he came down to San Diego. And he was like, I have a job interview. And if I get it, I'm moving down here. We're going to start over. And he had been saying that to me for 2 years.
Oh, I'm sure.
And I said, okay, Lord, I pulled up to right before I pulled up to the Southwest thing, I said, okay, Lord, if this is not meant to be, you need to show me. The affair wasn't enough. The divorce wasn't enough. If you show me, I will follow you. Because at that point, I was just like over it. I was done. Mom was sick. I had just gotten back from, no, that was right before we had to go to Alabama, but just dealing with just so much. Literally, kid you not, 24 hours later, I'm not even joking you. We were sitting on my couch, and that's when I found out about the other girl. He had moved into our house a month before our divorce was final, bought her a brand new car, and she had been living in our house for 2 years. And that was it. And that was February 15th of 2018. I kicked him out of the house. Yes, the police were called because there was a lot of screaming and not a lot of things good going on in that place. But that was my sign, and I walked away, and God has been first and foremost in my life since then.
That's awesome.
So, and the last year and a half has not been easy, but he's always provided for me. He's always been there for me. But I think those 6 years were probably the biggest 6 years of me just not wanting anything to do with God.
For sure.
Because I was so scared to actually ask him to take Tom out of my life.
Right.
So.
Yeah, it surprises me with how much rope.
I know.
I mean, you were not an angel. I've seen you. You were not an angel. Nope. But I mean, I just look at you as such a confident person, and you just gave him so much rope. Like I'm shocked, to be honest with you. And that's not a cut on you.
No, oh my gosh, because I completely acknowledge that. And
Yeah.
Jason and Megan and a lot of I don't even think mom and dad, they didn't really know the extent. Like they knew he had an affair. My parents were the ones I called. It was like 3 a.m. their time when I found out. Don't ask me why I called them first. But
Probably
I was
the same reason.
hysterical. I
Well,
was just like,
regardless of the relationship with them, they're still your mom and dad.
Yeah.
Exactly.
and my mom was always good with relationships. As crazy as it sounds, like when it came to boys.
Yeah, she seemed to have. I don't understand how or why.
But I remember too, there were times where you'd be in your room crying about different things with girls, and mom would come down there and talk to you.
Yeah.
There's just something about that's the only thing I
so
remember. And so, but I think once the book came out, I don't know if you've even read the whole book, but there's a chapter called Mr. N, and that's where it gets raw and real, and really there's so many different things that came out. I mean, I could just go on and on about the lies, the threats. I couldn't get an attorney, pulling the divorce papers 4 times, keeping me on this string, buying this chick a brand new car before our divorce was final.
Right.
And I had to file for bankruptcy after our divorce. And he still lives at our $1 million home and has his 5 vehicles. I'll never forget when you walked into our house before the wedding and you were like, seriously, can your house be any bigger? And he was so grumpy because remember the whole fiasco with the rental cars? But anyway.
Oh, yeah, because I rented a car in the wrong airport. Like, we got in at like 2 a.m. and I rented it in the Hood Airport.
In Oakland, California.
Over San Francisco. It was a effing nightmare.
But no, so it's just, I don't even know where we were going.
Well, you were talking about how big his house was. And
oh, yeah. So
it was a huge house for 2 of them. Let's put it that way.
I appreciate you saying that. But now I think mom taught me so well how to act like I had it all together.
Yeah.
Sure.
And then it wasn't, honestly, it was not until it was crazy because I pressed enter because my book went on Amazon. And I'll never forget when I pressed enter. And for a quick second, it was the first time I thought, oh my gosh, everyone's going to know.
Yeah.
Everyone's going to know the real me. And it's been the best thing that has ever happened to me because I am who I am now. There's no hiding. There's there's a lot of things. I asked Jason on my show, like, does my social media bug you sometimes? And he's like, well, yeah, it does sometimes. And I want to know that because I, when the book came out, I always had posts where it said I struggled and this and that. And I want to still do that because I still do struggle.
Sure.
And so it's funny, but I think that literally was the best thing. That it was the worst experience of my life, those 6 years, but it was the best.
Yeah, and I think your attitude, you're just always trying to save face. That's it.
Yeah.
I mean, you're trying to save face, and that's all you knew.
That's all I knew.
And me too, for the most part. But then, I just started not caring. I mean, I do still care. I mean, I want to try to save face, but it's got to be tough, especially on a female end. With our younger sister has dealt with huge things with appearance and stuff like that, and so it's tough. It's tough. Yeah, we could go on for hours.
Yeah.
We could. Seriously.
Are you familiar with the term "the wounded healer"?
I've heard of it. Is it a book?
I'm sure there is a book, but Carl Jung was a psychologist.
Oh, yes. I know Carl Jung.
Yeah. So just as I hear both of you talk, I don't know, I feel like this title, I guess, fits both of you. I'll just read a quick little snippet here. It says, one of the deeper underlying archetypal, that's a weird word.
Yeah, is that, I don't even know.
Is that English?
I don't know. Archetypal?
I feel like it has to do with like building, because like architect.
Something. And type? I don't know. Patterns which is being constellated. Wow, there are so many bad words in this.
Have fun with that.
Maybe
one.
are there what do they call them? Those cliff notes?
Yeah.
That are like in English?
English, please.
Can we link it up?
Press 1 for English. All right, so...
You can try again. We won't say anything.
Yeah. So, to quote Kiriane, a colleague of Jung who elucidated this archetype, the wounded healer refers... Here we go. This is the good part. The wounded healer refers to the capacity to be at home in the darkness of suffering and there to find gems of light and recovery with which, as though by enchantment, to bring forth healing.
You know what that makes me think of? The lotus flower.
I don't know the lotus flower.
So it's on my book. That's my theme. Right? Because it talks about, and when you were saying that, that's what was popping in my head, because you're in that midst of muddiness and darkness and you struggle to up and have the leaves or whatever is on the lotus flourish. You still struggle. It just doesn't come up from the water just all at once, right? It struggles at different times.
Yeah.
And that's part of the process of being a wounded healer. Yes. I like that.
And then another quote here that I found, the analyst must go on learning endlessly. It is his own hurt that gives the measure of his power to heal. This and nothing else is the meaning of the Greek myth of the wounded physician. So
that means if you don't go to therapy?
Yeah. I don't know. It's too heady for me, so I'm going to stay in my lane.
Yeah. No, but I agree. Like, you have to keep learning. So it's nothing against... Not everyone has to be in therapy, but if you're still
yes, they do.
Well, yeah. Okay,
yeah, we peer pressure people to go to therapy.
Okay, good. And I'm not on the show because I'm a therapist.
No.
But therapy's great. But no, Ben, like you were saying, if you stop learning, if you don't learn, you might have never been able to acknowledge the lack of emotions that you had in your family, and maybe your marriage would have fallen apart.
Yeah.
Megan might have walked away from you because you weren't open to learning. I wasn't open to learning either, Yeah. So that's what I got from that too.
Yeah.
I like him.
And then for me, another person that comes to mind, and my background before sales was ministry. So I kind of grew up in the church. I went to college to...
He's ordained.
I'm ordained. I marry people. Haven't buried anybody yet, but...
well, I'll be sure to put your name up first.
Yeah.
Because I'll still be here, you old fart.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
So... But when I think of wounded healer, I also think of the person of Jesus. I mean, here's a guy who took on human form. God became man, experienced pain, brokenness, hurt, everything, took it to the cross, conquered it, and he now provides the ultimate source of healing. So I think being at home with our darkness and being able to not just sweep it under the rug, but own it and let it help other people is the ultimate goal. So I don't know. I just kind of feel like I'm in a room with two wounded, people, but people that are making the most of it and bringing healing through it.
Yeah, and I think that's both, our podcast goal is not to heal people, but we've had a few people reach out and look for therapists, and like that's that's huge. And like with your movement too, like when people reach out to you, I mean, it means more than anything is when people email you or message you.
It does, doesn't it? It's like the most humbling experience.
Yeah.
And this is what we all need to be proud of, is that we didn't want to grow up the way we grew up, right? You wish that there was different things about how you grew up. We obviously do too.
Yeah.
But we're using those struggles, like this is part of the book, right? Those struggles. I'm using the struggle from my crazy ex-husband and that disaster to make a difference. And it doesn't matter if there's just one person out there that hears this episode or all of your other episodes or hears one of my speeches, that makes it all worth it.
Yeah.
And that's what we have to be proud of ourselves for, is that we're not using this to glorify ourselves. We're using this to give back. And that is what we're on this earth to do, is to give back. And we can be a hot mess while we do it, and it's totally okay.
Well, we do it a little bit to glorify ourselves.
Well, yeah. Okay, we kind of like it.
Well, like just
the
like
attention
I always,
is nice.
Well, I always tell Ben, there's always some showmanship, and we would love to be. I would love to do this full time, but that's a pipe dream. But so that was a good ending. What I want to do real quick before we end is just, what is your goal moving forward? I mean, you created a nonprofit, so that means you can not make a profit.
In a way.
In a way, you can pay yourself a salary. I mean, we don't have to get into the business aspect, but like, what do you see for, the I Am Enough movement?
That's a great question.
I don't know. Maybe that's after the show pod or after a chat.
Oh no, because I already have it planned. Of course, it's not my plan. It's what God has planned for me. But
right.
I just started writing my second book.
Okay.
And continuing with the podcast and then the show. Really, in 2020, I'm really focusing on the movement and the nonprofit, because especially with fundraising, because I can't do anything unless I have money.
It's true.
My big thing, and I actually was talking to wife Megan, about this, is to really put on a big event here in Michigan, and one like in San Diego that's focused on, again, we all struggle with not feeling enough, but women and teenagers. Avery and Megan, like those ages, right?
Yeah.
Like, because Avery, my niece, is 12, and teaching them at a young age about that. So
absolutely,
those are my big goals. And then obviously, as soon as we can, to give back to domestic violence shelters and all of that. So that is my big 2020 plan. It might go to 2021.
Whatever.
But that's first and foremost what I want to do.
Okay.
Is because I love Michigan. My GR peeps lived here for 33 years, and I still have a lot of friends and stuff here.
Sure.
And I would love to be able to give back, because the Grand Rapids Pizza have been very, very supportive of the movement and the book and just everything. And for some reason, I just feel like so many people here know our stories anyway, because
it's tough.
Like my sister and like you. Yeah, I just feel like a lot of people here know. And with my mom being sick, I just feel like there's a lot of support right now. But yeah. So that's kind of the goal.
Okay. Well, why don't you just tell us how people can reach out to you, like all your plugs or whatever.
So everything is Megan Fenyoe. And so my website is meganfenyoe.com. Everything on social media is Megan Fenyoe. But the movement, you can go to my the movement website and order your free I Am Enough cards. I mail them to you. And that is IamEnoughMovement.info.
.info.
I know. I couldn't get IamEnoughMovement.com or IamEnoughMovement.org. So I had to go with .info.
Doesn't matter. It all goes to the same web.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
you always used to be something where it was like, oh, yours is a .net.
I know.
Oh, are you in the dark web?
Well, and .net was an option.
Oh.
And I didn't want to go with
Really?
.net because of the same thing, the negative connotation.
Yeah, I don't know what it is. It's like, oh, you didn't have enough money for the .com. Like, meanwhile, it probably cost $10,000 to get the.
So I got .info.
That's so funny. That's why you did it.
Yep.
Oh, that's cool. All right. Well, thank you for.
Thank you.
This was fun. I feel like we could have talked for a long time, and I know we jumped around a little bit, but our listeners are used to that. So
yeah, no, I think it's great. It's not scripted.
Oh.
So it's totally okay.
Yeah. That was a big step for me because when I said let's start, I honest to goodness had no idea what I was going to ask.
But see, so your shows are scripted?
Not scripted, but we when we interview somebody, we always have a bunch of questions just in case.
Yep.
But normally, see, a good interview, and it's funny, Eric Zane I heard this from him, and he's kind of like, I don't know, I fanboy, but he's been in radio for forever. He was on Freebird Hot Wings.
Yeah.
But we advertise with him. So I have his number, which is, I texted him today, which is kind of funny. But he had said he had interviewed Larry King once when he was on Freebird Hot Wings or something. And Larry, and it wasn't live. And Larry said, you are not even listening to my answer, and you're jumping into the next question. He's like, I don't ever have any questions. I get my questions from listening to the person speak. And then I ask my next question. So it's hard for me to do that because I'm kind of OCD. But like our normal format where Ben and I sit down, we kind of have segments where we're like.
It's funny because you said that when you were on my show, and at the end when we got off the air, you're like, oh my gosh, you ask a lot of good questions. I think it's because I'm a therapist.
Yes.
And so it's hard. But the other thing is we don't ask questions either. We have no set questions on our podcast. And I think for us, it's all about that unapologetically who we are, wanting to be authentic and real and all of that. So I love that you guys just did this today and just went off the... I'm glad it wasn't scripted because I probably would have said I don't want it scripted.
Yeah. I mean, when I say scripted, it's more just outlined.
Yeah.
And
segments,
yeah.
Identifying, it's almost like jumping off points.
Yeah.
Here's something we're going to talk about. We're not sure where it's going to go, but we know we're going to talk about that topic.
Yeah, so it's tough for me to...
You did a great job.
That was way out of my... But I'm not kidding you. When I started, I was like... When I was introducing it, and that's why I kind of like that he does the explain what Threads is about. Then I'm like, okay, settle down.
Aw, you did a great job.
Oh,
you had great questions. I loved the Fenyoe question. No one's ever asked me that.
I don't know. I've kind of always been. I'm not proud of the last name because there comes a lot of pain with it, but it is kind of a bummer that if Sully doesn't have kids, like. I'm done. This is it with me. When I die, it's gone. Because my older boy has his mom's maiden name. So it's just always been kind of a touchy subject with me with that last name. Because
oh, yeah, you're done because I have... Oh, that's right. Because my sister is a Cornell and I'm a Fenyoe.
Yep. So
okay, if that happens, I'll get my name back.
Well, then your kid has to have... your boy. If you have a boy, you have
I'm not having any kids.
Well...
This girl is not having any kids.
Then you're not much of a help.
Oh, that's true. Dang it.
All right, guys. Well, thank you so much, guys. All right, Threadies. Thank you so much for listening. I hope you enjoyed it. And, we'll see you when we see you.
Bye. See you later.